Have you ever saved all year for that one family vacation and ended up stressed out about every single dollar?
Not anymore. Hi, I'm Mary Ellen.
And I'm Jo. We're two busy moms who have cracked the code on travel with points and miles.
We're here to show you how we turn everyday expenses into extraordinary vacations.
This is Wonderland on Points, where we share tips and tricks to help you earn free and deeply discounted travel.
Let the adventure begin. Welcome to Wonderland on Points, presented by Yahoo Travel. We are glad that you are with us today. We are headed back to Norway. If you missed part 1 of this episode, then please go back and listen to our episode from last week, Norway part 1. This is Norway part 2. I am your host, Mary Ellen.
And I am Jo, and we are at the Stegastein viewpoint. That's where we left off. You were on your way from Flum to Ålesund, and we're just going to dive right in because you still have so much to share. So thank you guys for joining us this week. Like Mary Ellen said, you do not want to miss the beginning of this story. It has all of the things that you need to create your own Norway itinerary, and I truly believe it should be on everyone's bucket list after this trip.
Oh my goodness. Yes. I keep telling people, if Norway was not on your dream travel list, then put it on there because it is absolutely worth prioritizing to try to get to because it's the most beautiful country that I've ever been to. I've seen some beautiful things, but Norway is the bang for your buck of just every inch of the places in Norway that we went were stunningly beautiful.
So one of the places that you stopped along this road trip from Flum to Ålesund was the Loen Skylift, and this is where you saw absolute insanity. First of all, when I saw your video, at first I thought it was you doing this because I knew that you had done, in Switzerland, you did some pretty crazy stuff. So for a second, I was like, I'm sorry, did she just put on the squirrel costume and jump?
I absolutely did not. But you are not the only person who asked me, oh my goodness, is that Jared or is that you? Because we did do paragliding, and that was truly, when we paraglided in Switzerland, in Interlaken, Switzerland, that was the single greatest. If I had to choose just a 20-minute chunk of my life, that was the greatest 20 minutes of my life. I absolutely loved flying like a bird. It was amazing. Okay, this is what happened. So Loen is one of the places that my husband had as an optional stop. We also had an electric car. Our rental car this whole time is an electric car, so it needs to charge at various places. And I will say Norway is very set up for electric vehicles. There's a lot of charging stations. So that didn't end up being a problem. It was something we were nervous about because we've never had an electric car. We were able to charge it in various locations along our way. So Loen is near another town where we were going to charge. And he said, this is an optional activity. There's a sky lift up to a gorgeous viewpoint. There's a very short hike at the top that's optional. Do we want to do this? I almost said no. And I am so thankful that we did it. I keep learning that in Norway, do the side quest. Say yes. Do the side quest. So we took the sky lift up. And while we are on the cable car, I also took that for granted because my husband and I did a bunch of cable car gondola type things in Switzerland, but my kids were not with us in Switzerland. So they actually hadn't been in a cable car like this. So it was fun for them just to ride that, to watch on our way up. Definitely recommend doing it. I look beside me and there's these two guys on the lift with us. And I'm like, wait a minute, what in the world are they wearing? This is like a squirrel suit they have their, the material goes from their arm to their foot like they are little bats. And I said, I'm sorry, so sorry. I know in Norway we're not supposed to talk to strangers or be friendly and smile and talk to people. Are you about to jump off this cliff? And they said, oh yeah, we sure are. And they were cool. I mean, what were they going to do? We were going to watch or not, but they seemed to be cool with people watching. They're like, yeah, we're going to jump off that side over there. So we went up when we got to the top, up to the gorgeous viewpoint. There's you can walk all around the top. There are hikes up there. There are sheep up there. My daughter started following the sheep. One of my favorite pictures from the trip, and that most people seem to love online, has some sheep on top of the mountain, and you can see the water down at the bottom. This is from the top of this Loen Skylift. So we are up there enjoying the top, and these guys, they get up there, they go stand by the edge, they talk to each other for a quick minute, and you can see them like planning, all right, we're going to jump off this direction, we're going to cruise down the mountain, and then just poof, one of them just jumps off. There's no big parachute. There's nothing. Just him in this tiny little squirrel suit. I guess this is called base jumping. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. We watched him, followed him all the way down as he followed the curve of the mountain, out over the water, kind of back up a little bit at the end, and then out pops a parachute and he floats down to the bottom. And then after he got down there, the other guy did it. It was wild. The craziest part was immediately after watching them do this, my preschooler turns to me, as serious as she can be, just turns to me and says, I want to do that.
Huh? Oh,
yeah.
All right.
She is going to be adventurous, I guess. We always talk about traveling all around the world so that our kids get a great education, right? They learn about the world, see so many cool things. It expands their horizons. I hope her horizon never expands quite to base jumping, but it's amazing how she was like, oh, that looks cool.
That's so funny because that's not my first. I mean, my first thought is that it looks cool, but my first thought is also not that that's something that I ever want to do personally.
Me neither. No.
But she's just adventurous, and I love it. Okay,
yeah, paragliding is one thing. This is not. This is different.
Yeah. No, you have to I feel like my arms would snap backwards, instant dislocation of the shoulder. I don't know. We could talk about that forever, I think, and figure out how it's physically possible. They must be very strong. Your next stop is Ålesund, where you stayed in the same hotel for 4 nights. This is your longest stretch because you bounced from place to place to place. Why did you pick this as your longest stay?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, we never stay anywhere for 4 nights. Very rare is that the case. And even now, yes, we stayed in this hotel for 4 nights, but we did day trips out. And so it was kind of a home base. It made sense when we started looking at the activities that we were going to do. Number one, I found flights home from here. So this was going to be our exit point from Norway. But we stayed there longer because of the shorter day trips that we could make from that city and back. It had a choice hotel that ended up being, with me transferring choice points from city over to choice, 1-to-2 ratio, 2 rooms for our family of 5, ended up being 20,000 points per night total for the 4 nights, so 80,000 points. And then it included the free breakfast, which is fantastic. They had a great breakfast spread. This hotel is actually waterfront. It's on the water, and beside the hotel, there's a little area where these egg chairs that swing, and you can sit in the egg chairs. I thought of you every time.
I do love an egg chair. And is this the hotel where I looked at your picture and thought you were literally in a ship?
Yes.
That's crazy.
We were in a corner room. We had 2 rooms, but one of our rooms was a corner room, and it had basically floor-to-ceiling windows that just looked out over the water. And it truly, now everyone knows who's listened to this podcast for any length of time that I'm scared of cruises. So I've never gone on a cruise ship. But in my mind, this is what it felt to be like on a cruise ship, because it felt like you were just staying out on the water. It was awesome. I really loved that corner room. And we were in room, if I remember correctly, it was 387.
Okay.
And so 287, 487, I think any of those rooms would have that corner view. So I would recommend, if you do go here and stay here, maybe see if you can snag one of those corner rooms. Our other room was more of a city view. It was also a corner room, so it had windows all around, which was really nice. We had 3 people in one room and 2 in the other. This hotel was great. I would absolutely stay here again. It was walking distance for the activities that we did do in Ålesund, because we did have one day that we stayed there and did activities. So Overall, they were very friendly. This hotel was so great because being that cheap, they also had shuffleboard downstairs, some other little games. They had a kids' room that had a little teepee and all this craft stuff and Barbies to play with. And my daughters really enjoyed the kids' room. They went and just spent time there and we played shuffleboard. It was kind of amazing that there were all these activities at this very affordable hotel to do.
Yeah, that's amazing. And this one had a free breakfast. It was good.
Oh, yeah, it was very good. It had everything, European options, the things that more Americans like. It had crepes, it had fruit, fresh fruit, it had, all the coffee and tea and all the things you need. So you definitely were able to eat and fill up on that. So I'm pretty sure the days we stayed there, we didn't do a full lunch because we ate as much as we could at breakfast. And then we kind of snacked throughout the day and then had a dinner. And that'll help save you money too, because it's just so expensive for meals.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so as you mentioned, you did some day trips, and then you had one day that was focused in Ålesund. So let's start there. Tell us about your Ålesund day.
Yes. So this day, it's funny, I did not read my husband's itinerary. I just was going with the flow. So each new day, I'd be like, what are we doing today? Which then led me to get into activities that I didn't know what they were going to be when I started. This probably was a good thing because we get to the base of in Ålesund is Mount Aksla, Aksla, Aksla. And so that's like the mountain in the town that you can climb, and then you get gorgeous views of the town, the surrounding water, everything, if it's a clear day. And thankfully, we ended up with some great weather on this trip. When we were looking at the weather before we went, and if you plan a trip like this, it will probably say rain every single day of your trip, it is a very rainy place. This city is a very rainy city, but it tends to be like rain will come and go at any moment. It doesn't mean that your whole day is going to be a washout of rain. So thankfully, most of the day was really clear and beautiful. So when we hiked to the top of the mountain, me and the preschooler, we walked up. We were looking for a spot. My other big kids and my husband were going to do a via Ferrata up rather than the path that you can walk up the stairs. It's worth noting you can also drive up this mountain, so you don't have to do any of the walking at all. I could have taken the rental car to the top on the other side. Maybe I would have, had I known that was an option before I started. I don't know. But me and the preschooler walked up the 418 stairs. This is where I have a video of her walking up the stairs saying, I want to watch a show with every step.
One of my favorite things on the internet. And I was not alone. That video went crazy.
It did go crazy. And because that was the fact. I have all these videos of her hiking. This little 4-year-old was asked to do things on this trip that probably no 4-year-old should be asked to do. But she's such a trooper and she did great. But, it's not without some complaining along the way. So these stairs, she made it up to the top. It was a gorgeous view, and we mainly were trying to find where we could see to take pictures of the big kids on the Via Ferrata because it was their first Via Ferrata. So cool. It's a perfect Via Ferrata for beginners. You don't have to have done one before. You don't have to be, it's an easy one in terms of the rating systems that the Via Ferratas have. It's a very easy one. It's very affordable. You basically just rent the equipment. It's not as expensive as some of the ones I've done in the US and in Canada. So it's a fantastic opportunity for your kids to do. We really could not get a view of them from the top, though. We did find where they were going to come out, and we kind of stood there and waited for them, and I snapped some pictures right when they got to the top.
Those were cute pictures, too. That's such an epic picture to have of yourself to show your friends. Look what I did.
Yeah, it was really good. There was a lady there. It's technically not a guided Via Ferrata, but they do have a couple people who put on the equipment and I think take some groups up. Maybe this is also a place where cruise ships come in. Every day a cruise ship comes in. So I think they get a lot of people doing it from the cruise ships that are a part of a group from the cruise ship. So there was a guide who snapped some pictures for them. She wasn't truly with them the whole way, but she offered to snap some pictures, and she got some really cool pictures of them along the middle of the Via Ferrata, which was awesome since I couldn't really see them to get good pictures.
That's so nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
she was unbelievably friendly. She was so nice. She was afterwards, which my husband and I, maybe we should have gotten our story straight. My son is 13, and he is very fit, right? He does a lot of active things, very active, very coordinated. So he didn't like having to go slow. So she let him pass some people so that he could kind of scamper up the mountain more quickly. But I don't think she realized, I think my husband indicated that he had done this kind of thing before. And I guess that's not a lie. He has done a lot of things in harnesses. He hasn't technically done a via ferrata. And then when he got to the top, the guide was like, "Oh my goodness, your son is so amazing. He's so good at it." And I was like, "Oh, it's his first via ferrata." And she was like, "Really? He could do all of these." And she told me the different grades of the via ferratas. He could do all these other ones. And then afterwards, my husband was like, "Well, I told her it was his first," or I told her he had experience. But I think he just meant he had experience with harnessed activities. But
Get your story straight.
I know. I was like, "Well, I told her it was his first one." So anyway, they loved that activity. I definitely recommend it. If via ferratas are something that interests you, you've never done, but you're willing to maybe give it a try, this is a great beginner one. It doesn't cost a lot. It's relatively short, so it gives you a good opportunity. And then at the top of the mountain, there are some World War II bunkers that you can explore. Yeah, I don't really think of Norway's involvement in World War II, so I was kind of shocked by that.
Yeah, that's not something that I've ever thought about, actually, now that I think about it.
I think they were actually German bunkers because Hitler and Germans went up to Norway. And then I didn't actually read any kind of plaque or anything there, but my kids did think it was fun to go down in the bunkers and explore them a little bit.
Yeah.
So those are there at the top. That's what we did one morning. And then in the afternoon, we did a kayaking tour all through the water in and around Ålesund. This was a tour activity, so we did have a guide. You could rent kayaks and go individually. I'm not sure why my husband chose to do the tour one versus individual. I think because of having, I can't remember. He did have a good reason for it, but we ended up doing the tour one.
Okay. Hey, everybody, we will get right back to today's episode, but we wanted to remind you that Yahoo is the presenting sponsor of this podcast, and we are so incredibly excited about what we're building together. The Why Wonder newsletter is written twice a week by Mary Ellen and me, and it's a voice for travelers who want more value, and that's what we're all here for. Families, couples, retirees, anyone who wants to stretch their points and miles further.
We'll share practical points earning strategies, breaking travel news, tips and tricks, and the best travel articles we can find so you can stay up to date. We'll also be covering the latest developments from Yahoo Travel that listeners of this podcast would love. So strap in with us and keep on traveling more for less. Sign up for the Why Wonder newsletter at travel.yahoo.com or in our show notes. Okay, back to today's episode.
I thought this was funny. In your notes, you said that it's supposed to be ages 5 and up. Your husband confirmed what he had read on the website after you gave him dirty looks. This is your notes.
Yes, this is my notes. So we go to check in here, and they're doing the, intro spiel, and then you have to sign the safety waiver or whatever. And the guy talking to us, the guide says, he mentions ages 5 and up. Ages 5 and up. I think he said it multiple times. And I just shot some eyes over at my husband because our daughter is 4.5. And she is obviously a very adventurous, capable 4.5-year-old, but she's 4.5. And so I looked over there at him with like these boring eyes. He knew immediately what I didn't have to say a word. He pulls up on his phone their website, which explicitly says 5 by the end of the calendar year. And she will be 5 by the end of the calendar year. She's a November birthday. So we just kind of moved forward with it. And we're prepared to show them their own website. Should it be, they never directly to my face asked me how old she was.
I'm waiting for her to be like, but I'm 4, Mommy.
I'm 4. I know. And the guide at one point was talking about my kids and was like, how old are your kids? And I was like, oh, he's 13 and she's 11. And I just kind of ignored the fact that I also have a third kid. But I was prepared to show them their own website should it come to it.
Yeah. You're like, we take terms and conditions very seriously in this family.
Yes.
So,
Well, and obviously it has come up before because it was a weird thing to explicitly say by the end of the
Multiple
calendar
times.
year. But the kayaking was interesting. I think overall it ended up not being our favorite activity. It was fine. We loved kayaking when we went on our trip in the Netherlands. We did some kayaking that we really loved, but I don't know. We did so many amazing things on this trip that when we think back through them,
Yep.
I think kayaking was lower on all of our list of activities. So if I had to cut something, maybe it would be that. I think also part of it was that many rain showers came and went
Yeah.
during the 2 hours we were kayaking. And so at times we were out there on the water, it was pouring rain down on us, and we were just like kayaking through the rain.
You're
So-
like, I wish I was wearing a swimsuit right now under my
and
clothes.
they did try to give us, in theory, these like waterproof suits. They were not at all waterproof. I don't know. They did their best, but the hilarious part was, and I don't think I've shared this video yet. Maybe I did in a story. The 4-year-old, she paddled at first I was really impressed. Like she was doing the paddle appropriately. I was like, this is fantastic learning opportunity for the 5-year-old by the end of the calendar year. But then she fell asleep in the middle, face up, just like laying back in her kayak seat.
Being
And it's just-
waterboarded.
Yes, it's just pouring rain on her, and she stayed asleep through the rain. It's one of those things I'm like, maybe this is the best nap of her life. You know, she's out here on the water, the rain sound. The guides were laughing. They thought it was pretty hilarious that she fell asleep and she stayed asleep to the end of she was awake, maybe the first 30, 45 minutes of it. And then she slept through the second half.
What was the temperature like? Was it chilly?
That's a great question for Norway in general. We expected temperatures in the 50s, like the mid 50s throughout our trip. So we packed leggings. I packed a lot of long sleeve athletic shirts that are kind of that material that dries very quickly,
Yes.
have hoods attached to them, because we knew that rain showers come and go. So we did have raincoats with us on this trip, but we also had a lot of hooded long sleeve shirts that we could just pull up real quick. They had little thumb holes in them. They're great. I did post a link. I have links to those if anybody wants to check them out. They were the perfect thing generally. Now, I will say when we were there was when most of Europe, London, Paris, were going through the insane heat wave, dangerous heat wave. A lot of people died because they don't have air conditioning, 100 plus degrees in a lot of Europe. Norway was not in that heat wave, but it was warmer than normal. So we had a lot of days that were maybe 65 degrees when we expected more mid 50s. So we could have had shorts and t-shirts more so. We were pretty appropriate overall. But when we were in the kayaks and it was raining, it was not a freezing cold rain. We were not cold and shaking. By the end of it, the preschooler was pretty cold. We did kind of go back to the hotel and warm up after that, take warm showers, but it wasn't extreme. It wasn't miserable.
Sometimes it's hard because if you're like in the Midwest or in the South or right now, the way that it's been, I don't know about where you've been, but where I've been, it's been 80 and 90. So then when you go somewhere that's 60 or 70, I imagine that feeling absolutely frigid because you acclimate so fast.
It's true. I think all of our favorite temperatures for the most part are about 60 degrees. So we were in a sweet spot for the most part, especially being summer and getting away from 90-degree temps. We were like thrilled for it to be a little cooler for a week.
Okay. All right. Great.
Okay, stop what you're doing. I am going to teach you how to get a $50 item for free, basically.
Yeah, it's for free. That literally, now it takes a little time. You got to be patient. But you spend $50 the way that we're about to tell you, and you will get $50 back. That is crazy.
This is through Rakuten, which is an online shopping portal. You can choose to get your $50 back in the form of a check or to your PayPal account. But if you are listening to this podcast, it's probably because you like to travel, and we can teach you how to get that back as points instead of cash back. And as you know, $50 worth of points actually turns into more than $50 worth of travel.
Absolutely. Famously, I was able to book a $413 flight for 7,000 points. So that 7,000 points would have been a cash value of about $70, but that turned into $400+ of free travel. And that is exactly what you can be doing with Rakuten. It is super easy. You sign up with the link in our show notes, you go to one of the retailers in the app, and you place your very first order. It is important to note that these payments come 4 times a year, so you do have to be a little bit patient and wait for a payout. They come quarterly, so keep that in mind.
Joanna and I have both earned hundreds of thousands of points this way. Every single year, we're able to earn enough points that it's basically like a whole sign-up bonus for a new credit card without getting a credit card. So this needs to be in your points and miles toolbox. If you're an online shopper, make sure you're getting the most out of your shopping. You're earning credit card points, and you're also earning Rakuten points. It's a nice, what we call a double dip, stacking the savings to put towards travel. So go to our show notes. You'll find the link if you don't already have Rakuten. It is a great, easy way to rack up some points.
Now back to the episode. On your first major day trip from Ålesund, where did you go? Because this actually ended up being one of your favorite days of the whole trip.
Yeah, I definitely think my 2 favorite days in Norway were the Flam day, where I did the ziplining and biking, and then this would be the other biggest highlight for me. So we did a day trip towards Trollstigen from Ålesund. It was maybe 2.5 hours to get there, but there was a pretty stop along the way. There was, all that different elements. It's a beautiful drive, so it really doesn't feel that far away. The trips, these day trips were not bad at all. On the way there, we stopped this one spot that has a bakery and a waterfall. It was a great little stopping point, free bathrooms. This little bakery, I don't know if it's called a cafe. And I cannot even come close to pronouncing the name of this cafe. So I know that I have put it on my Instagram, so you guys can look there. And I will, I'm sure, come up with some kind of itinerary eventually, because people are going to ask for it. This had a little kids' room where my daughter was playing while we were eating a cinnamon bun. It was delightful. It was the perfect little stopping point before we continued up to Trollstigen, where they have some gorgeous viewpoints. I did notice one of the viewpoints up here was pretty accessible. There's a lot of places that are, I thought through this trip, because we did a lot of hikes that took very good mobility. And I was thinking to people who have mobility issues. And I remember at Trollstigen, there was somebody in a wheelchair at one point that I saw wheeled out pretty far. They couldn't get to every viewpoint, but they could get to one of their very good viewpoints. So that was a spot where there were a lot of tour buses stopping, letting out a lot of an older population, retirees that were traveling throughout Norway. Very popular spot. Loved stopping there. Would have loved to play in the river and have a little more time to romp around there probably. But after that viewpoint at Trollstigen, we continued down the other side, which is one of these switchback winding roads right past a waterfall. I mean, you can feel the mist on you if you open your car window as you drive by. Love all those roadside waterfalls. They're just unbelievable. And then we got to the bottom, and there was a little campsite, a Trollstigen campsite. And we got out there and used the bathroom. There's a playground there that my kids really enjoyed. I love any kind of mountain playground that so many of these European countries have. It was fantastic. And actually, our friend Michelle, Jet Set with Johnson's, when I posted a video of that playground, I had forgotten this. I knew about her Norway trip, but she said that they actually spent the night at that campground.
Oh, yeah, because they do the camper van trips.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Norway is great for the camper van trip. A lot of these campsites also had little cabins. And as I was there, I was like, man, how much do those little cabins cost? Because that would have been fun to stay at too. Assuming they're somewhat affordable, I would have loved, there's many, many campsites all throughout Norway. And that would also be a really great option for accommodations.
Yeah, I would be actually really interested to know, because in the U.S., a campsite's a lot cheaper than a hotel or an Airbnb.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
So after we went to the Trollstigen campground, we went on a hike, and my husband had a couple hikes. Every day of his itinerary had a couple optional hikes that we could pick and choose. What do we feel up for? What did we not feel up for? I'm so glad we did this one because it ended up being my favorite hike of the entire trip. I'm going to pronounce it incorrectly, but it looks kind of like this to me. We called it Little Filet. That is not quite right, but it's spelled almost like Little Filet hike. It is a short hike. It is straight uphill, but it is so worth it because it is short. It's not a 5-miler like Pulpit Rock or the other one that we're going to do. So you can do uphill if it's a short distance and you can see the top. You know how far you have to go. There were a couple spots where there were chains or rails to kind of help you go up some of the steeper spots. It was absolutely, fantastic. 360-degree views. You are on the ridge. You can go all along the ridge. There was a pool of water, fresh mountaintop water that I let my daughters take off their shoes and splash around and play in, which was great because that distracted them, gave them a fun activity. At one point, I looked across and I was like, I think this is a snapshot. When I remember my kids' childhood, when I remember raising kids, when I'm old and I look back, this snapshot is what I want to remember as our family activity because I had the two girls laughing and playing together in the water. My son was sitting on a rock overlooking the viewpoint with his arm around my husband, like the two of them sitting there, arms around each other looking while the girls play. Like I'm about to bust into tears just talking about it because it was just like one of these moments. It's like, I want to freeze this moment right here and remember
this picture
forever.
It's really special. You put it on your stories.
Yeah, I have a picture that I am going to try to blow up in my house. It's been a while since I've printed pictures for the walls of my house. A lot of times I'll print things that I really like on canvas. This is one that I'm going to try to print and hang up in our house because I truly don't want to forget this hike. So of the different hikes that we did, this one is a big bang for your buck, totally worth it. Even with little kids, this is, of the hikes we did, this was definitely the easiest for the little kids, even though it is uphill. I don't want to give you the impression that it was flat. It was uphill, but it was short. We went in the afternoon, so it was not very crowded. I think earlier in the day, maybe there'd be more people there. When we were there, at times it was like we didn't have the mountaintop to ourselves, but there were so few other people there that it really felt like it.
Yeah. That's like a recurring theme in so much of your content. It wasn't that Instagram versus reality where you had to stand for 45 minutes to try to get one shot without other people in the background. Like everything doesn't have people in the background. It's amazing.
This is, and I'm just going to bring it up here because we said at the beginning of episode 1, people keep asking me to compare Switzerland and Norway. And when my husband and I analyze the difference, a lot of it comes down to there were so many less people in Norway. In a lot of the places that we went, the hikes we went, the viewpoints we went to, yes, the cruise ships bring a lot of people to certain spots, but overall, Norway did not feel as crowded as most of Europe feels, which makes sense. I mean, Europe is compact, so many people, tourists there, especially in the summertime. Even in Switzerland, well, yes, you can find spots that are serene with less people, but it felt pretty crowded in Switzerland. Norway did not feel crowded at all for the most part on these hikes and beautiful places that we went. And for us, that was a big difference. That was something that helped in our minds if we truly had to rank them 1 to 2, which they're both incredible, both worth visiting, both, a 100 out of 10 rating. Norway and Switzerland are both top tier, but Norway might have the edge because of the lack of people.
That's incredible because you loved Switzerland. I mean, this podcast kind of started out. Switzerland was one of your first major stories that you told on our podcast, I feel like. And I mean, you just raved about it. And that definitely sets it apart. It sets it apart. The peace and the solitude and the not being overcrowded is huge.
Yeah, it really is. I don't know if it's because Norway seems a little bit less accessible, and it was in a lot of ways. It's a bigger country. You can ride trains to things, but we were riding in a car, so we were definitely going to places that weren't as accessible as if you're riding the train across Switzerland like we did. You're primarily in more areas of concentrated amounts of people, but it's just such a big country. There's so much to do. The beautiful places are everywhere, so people are spread out, and there's just less people. So anyway, we'll circle back to our next day trip, but that day trip to the Trollstigen area and that hike that we did, I would love for that to be on people's itinerary because it was a really fantastic day.
Little fillet. Put it on your list. Okay, second day. Another UNESCO World Heritage Site. This time to, I'm going to say, Gerangerfjord. Gerangerfjord? Did I do it? All right.
Close enough.
I think so. I feel pretty proud of that. This was also the site of your absolutely harrowing, treacherous death hike. The one reason that you said that you need to double check your husband's itineraries from now on.
Yes.
So please tell us about this.
Oh my word. So we go to this little town. It's similar, I guess, to Flom. I felt it was different, but if you're comparing, I can see the similarities there. There's also cruise ships that come into that little village, dock there to then people get on the tour boats to explore the fjord a little bit more, which seems somewhat unnecessary to me when you already rode the cruise ship in, but whatever. They want to go see the Six Sisters waterfall, and it's very beautiful. What my husband's plan was, we're going to park in the little town. We're going to get on the boat. We're going to go see the fjord waterfalls. And then the boat is going to drop us off at this little spot. And I truly mean a little spot where there's like no dock really. There's no village. There's no, just on the edge of the water. And he said, we're going to hike up to, there's a little farm here. And the farm is less than a kilometer up. It's just up here. It's a beautiful little farm overlook. I was like, okay, it's going to be very steep, but it's short, right? It's short. We start going up the mountain. The boat leaves. The boat is gone. There's no turning back because the boat dropped you off in the middle of nowhere on the fjord to climb up this mountain. I was like, in my mind, I kept telling him, but where do we go once we get to the top? He was like, we walk back to the village. I was like, but the village was way around the corner and over there. What do you mean we walk back to the village? Like, it was not making sense in my brain, but there was nothing to do but to start. Yes, and keep going because there was no turning back. I was right, but we got to the farm, which is the first viewpoint. I'm sorry, I said Six Sisters, the Seven Sisters waterfall viewpoint. You can see the waterfall when you're on the fjord, on the boat, but we got a view from up above the waterfall because we hiked straight up the mountain. And I do mean straight up. There are points where you are using chains, and I was like, this could be a Via Ferrata. This could easily be a place where it would make sense to be harnessed in because you were on the edge of the mountain. One wrong step, and you could be jumping off this mountain.
You have your babies.
The preschooler.
You have your babies.
And my son, the little mountain climber, the little mountain goat, had scurried on up way ahead of us. Didn't see him. There were times I was like, I didn't see him for an hour. I didn't even know where he was because he scurried up this mountain. We get to the viewpoint. We almost died getting up to the viewpoint, but we were like, all right, we did it. Praise the Lord, we did it. We got to this viewpoint. Now what happens? Like, where do we go, honey? And he was like, the village, I think it must just be over there. It must just be over there. No. If you look on All Trails website, this is known as the Seven Sisters Waterfall Viewpoint Trail, whatever. If you really look at the details, it was 6.4 miles. Keep in mind, I thought I was going less than a mile. 6.4 miles, elevation gain of almost 3,000 feet. When we were at that farm, we were nowhere near the top. We had to climb truly, like we went from on the water to straight up on top of these mountains that line the fjords, up and over the mountain. At one point, I thought, I told my husband, I feel like I am in The Sound of Music.
Yes, I thought this. You're fleeing the Nazis. You're going up and over.
Nazis. I thought when I heard the sound of, when I've seen The Sound of Music, I thought that had to be so impossible that a family could go up and over one of these Alps. And here we are doing it without the proper amount of food or water or preparation. And
Grounds for
a direct
divorce.
quote from the All
Grounds.
Sales.
I think it's in the Bible. I think it says, along with adultery as grounds for divorce, it says if thy husband books a 6.4 straight up mile hike and tells me it's less than a mile, it's over.
He formally apologized later because it was not what he expected either. This is a direct quote from the All Trails website. It says, the path is secured with ropes in the most important places, so it is safe and suitable for children. That is a lie. Yes, it is secured with ropes. It is not safe, and it is really not suitable for a 4-year-old, but she did it because she is incredible.
Amazing.
There were times on the way back, the up and over, I mean, it was truly, because we didn't know really how far it was. We didn't know how much further we had to go. I mean, my son we told him at the farm, you can't get that far ahead of us anymore. You need to stay close. There are rocks. You could slip. You could fall. You really can't not. And for a while, he hung with us. But then it was such a long, I mean, this was hours and hours, this hike, that he got so far ahead. Him and my older daughter kind of went off, but then they got separated even. There was a place where I literally was like, I haven't seen them in an hour. I eventually passed someone and was like, have you seen 2 kids? And they were like, oh yeah, a boy and a girl. And I was like, oh good. They saw them. And they said they weren't together though.
Oh, gosh.
So they were separated. And there was a time that I almost went the wrong direction. I found myself walking and then was like, wait a minute, this is not the trail anymore. And so I kind of turned back and waited till Jared got to me in the preschooler, because even we got separated. And then I eventually heard crying through the distance, realize it is my 11-year-old girl. And I start looking around me. I squat down, see her not on the trail, off to the side, where she has like gone the wrong way and got separated from her brother and was just like, I'm lost in the woods in the middle of nowhere, Norway fjord. Then I find my son who has fallen and whose arm is completely from elbow to wrist covered in hives because he's a very allergic kid and he fell through who knows what. He's allergic to tree nuts. And so I'm curious. I would love to know what he fell through because we have no idea what that instantly, within minutes, caused his entire arm to be covered with hives. I mean, this is like a journey for like that our family will remember for the rest of our lives. So we're going to be old and telling, just like we had that beautiful picturesque moment the day before of their childhood, this is going to be like what they're in therapy for. But they did it, and we all survived.
How long did it end up taking?
I don't even know. I mean, it was at least 5 hours. It was long.
Gosh.
We did all make it back down to Dranger Ford or Dranger. Yeah, I can't. Dranger Ford.
Fjord? I don't know.
We all made it back to the town. We went to Cafe Olé at the inn and treated ourselves to, they made some fresh pizzas and pastries.
Oh, yum.
And we feasted as we laid there almost lifeless and waiting for the sweet release of death. There were times on that hike that we were like, could we just jump? Should we just jump? Too much.
End it now. Call for a life vac.
But you're proud of yourself at the end.
Of course.
You're like, man, that is epic. We did something truly amazing.
Sore.
Honestly, I wasn't as sore as I thought I would be.
Wow.
I really thought I would be, because going downhill especially is hard on your knees and your muscles because you're really bracing. A lot of these long hikes I found to be better because of all the rocks. You were having to concentrate so much on where your next footstep would be, like would it be secure, that you didn't always think about this is so long. Because Pulpit Rock was 5 miles. This was about 6.4 miles. I think this one just caught us off guard. It was late in the trip. It wasn't what any of us were expecting. It was far more, if we had mentally prepared for it, it would have been very different. It just caught us off guard.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Now, if you're someone who's adventurous and physically fit and loves hiking, it is stunningly beautiful. I mean, you are truly seeing the gorgeous view the whole way. I mean, you're on the side of the mountain. Yeah. Definitely, if hiking is your thing, do this. It is awesome.
Yeah, but when you're unprepared and you have children with you and you have to be that mom panic mode, it's crazy. That's wild.
Yeah.
Did you guys have to carry the little one, or did she walk the whole way?
girlfriend did it. She's a beast.
She's
She
a
is
beast.
amazing.
She's amazing. Better than me. So, I mean, that's kind of the cherry on top. The next morning, you flew out on, this is fun, KLM business class flights to Amsterdam. Ooh.
Yes,
but then,
we
of
did.
course, to head back to the U.S., it was economy via American Airlines. But what did you pay? And did everything go smoothly? Because you did not book this whole return trip on one itinerary, and that can be a little nerve-wracking.
Right. KLM and American Airlines are not in an alliance together. Mm-mm. So we had two completely different itineraries, which I would ultimately not recommend. Because when you're on one itinerary and you have a connection, if something goes wrong, they kind of have a responsibility to get you on another flight, make sure you make things. And these were totally separate. So I found the tickets on KLM. The only reason we were business class, it was their city hopper, which feels like a domestic first class, business class. They did give us a meal, and it was my kid's first time in business class, which was very fun. Ultimately, it was a good thing because we were the very first people off the plane, which we thought would help us in Amsterdam, because from the time that I booked these flights, the times changed dramatically.
Of course, as they do every time.
Without me realizing it, truly. So this flight from Ålesund to Amsterdam changed just by a little bit, but later by about 10, 15 minutes. The American Airlines flight from Amsterdam to Philly moved up by an hour.
When they do this.
So then with the boarding times, we had way less than an hour to go, to then change in the Amsterdam airport, kind of go through passport control and get to the AA flight. So we were panicked. And the flight attendant on the KLM business class flight was so sweet, but she was like, oh, like you only have that much time? That's not great. So we land, and we unfortunately don't get to just start running because we have to go on a bus. And then the bus takes you to like the middle of the Amsterdam airport.
Worst.
Which she said was maybe for the best because it would have been such a long walk that it was so far. So she was like, that's actually okay. It lets you off, but it didn't give us that advantage of being the first people off the plane that we could kind of hit the ground running because we had to wait on everybody to load the bus. Passport control was okay. They do have a special line for people making tight connections, and they actually wouldn't let us in that line.
What?
So we were in the family line because they said that it had to be within 30 minutes of your flight leaving. It was within 30 minutes of our flight boarding.
Yeah.
But it wasn't within 30 minutes of our flight leaving. Well, it made me nervous for sure.
Yeah.
When we get up to the passport control, the woman, the agent working, was texting. And she was smiling at her phone and texting in the middle of trying to scan all 5 of our passports.
Shut
and
up.
I have never been so close to losing my mind on someone as this woman laughing and texting and talking to the agent beside her. I'm like, this is so tight. We literally might lose our flight to America and have to pay who knows how much more money to book another flight. Like, I was panicked, and her texting and laughing, I literally, I came very close to losing my mind. But we made it through. We made it on the American Airlines flight, which was beautiful. That AA flight was 25,000 AA miles each and $115 in taxes and fees, which if you're coming back from Europe, $115 in taxes and fees are not bad. We had, on the way there, our taxes and fees were very low. So that was not very bad. It was totally fine. We actually bonded with one of the flight attendants on the AA flight. For whatever reason, she kind of fell in love with my daughter. And
you guys.
She did. And at the end of the flight, she literally got all the extra snacks on the whole plane and put them in a grocery bag for us and was like, here, you have to drive a couple hours home. Take this giant grocery bag of snacks from the plane. It was so kind and so helpful, actually.
I love that. Oh, that's the best. Well, you made it. You made it back to the U.S. and it could have been way worse with that connection. So I'm really, really happy that all came together. Looking back, if you had to leave out a few activities, which ones would you cut? Obviously, maybe the danger hike. And then which ones would you keep no matter what?
Yeah, I will say this Even though we travel on points and miles, and this is largely a budget travel podcast, this was an expensive trip. I think I started planning it when I heard those choice hotels were there because I was like, oh, zero out of pocket. Norway will be so affordable. It was not affordable, but it was also so epic that it was worth it.
Yeah.
And we did pay for a lot of activities that you wouldn't necessarily need to do because there's so much beauty all around you just that's free to look at. You could make it significantly more affordable by, cutting out some of the things that we did. We did probably more than you needed to, but we like to be active and we take pretty busy, full trips. So I mentioned it earlier, probably I would have nixed the kayaking in Ålesund. That didn't end up being our favorite activity. That would have saved us a little bit of a chunk of money. It did kind of mid-planning when I didn't go to the Viking village with my daughter. It's not very expensive, but that did save a little chunk of money that we kind of nixed that activity for us. So we had choices that we could make all along the way, and optional activities. We could do this or not. We could kind of evaluate how we were feeling about our budget to do or not do. I absolutely would not miss, though, the zip line in Flom and the biking in Flom. Loved that and loved that hike. And that hike, I will say, my favorite hike that we did near Trollstigen, there was a fee to enter to drive into that area. So you will have to pay a small fee. I don't remember what it was. It was not very much, but kind of like sometimes national parks have a fee to enter. There was a small little fee for that, but it would be so worth paying and doing, absolutely.
I mean, this just sounds so epic. And yeah, it was expensive, but if you had not been flying on points, if you had not done a lot of hotels on points or on other various hacks, it would have easily been 3 times what you ended up spending.
It's so true. I mean, I truly don't want to look up how much it all cost. I'm choosing to be blind to that in a lot of ways. But let's just say, for the sake of saying, maybe if we had paid full price for the trip, if it had been, say, a $6,000 trip, maybe we paid $3,000. It's significantly cheaper than whatever it would have been. So that is the piece that I have in knowing.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you've given lots of tips for how people can recreate this, but cut some things out of the budget, cut the rental car return fee. There are things that can be done. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us for this thrilling conclusion of Norway. Mary Ellen, this was such a special trip, and I'm sure everybody appreciates hearing all of your very thorough details. If you guys are inspired and going to plan your own Norway trip, come tell us about it in the Facebook group. You can find the link in the show notes. You can also find the link to our Instagrams. That's a great place to stay up to date with us. Mary Ellen did a really good job with highlight bubbles for this trip, so go follow us there, and we will see you guys here next week.
Thanks, guys, for joining us. See you next week.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode. We hope you learned something new and feel inspired to plan your next trip.
Remember, we're travelers sharing our experiences, not financial advisors, so always do your own research and make informed decisions.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you never miss a Points and Miles tip.
We'll see you next time on Wonderland on Points.